They called her a saint, a beacon of hope, a woman who gave everything to the poor and stood for the future of young girls. In Lagos, she was a symbol of generosity, a successful entrepreneur, and a philanthropist who built schools and funded scholarships. Her name, Adanna, was spoken with reverence. People saw her as an angel in human form, but they did not know the truth. Behind the golden smile and extravagant charity events was a woman who traded in darkness. Her wealth was built on stolen innocence, on the quiet suffering of those who could not speak. Every act of generosity was a mask, concealing a secret so vile that if it ever came to light, the world that worshipped her would crumble. And crumble it would. The whispers had already begun, voices in the shadows murmuring things that had never been said before. Eyes were turning toward her, watching too closely. Her nights were no longer silent. The girls she had taken had begun to visit her in dreams, whispering, watching, waiting. The woman who once walked with power would soon walk alone. The grand ballroom shimmered under golden chandeliers. Guests, adorned in elegant attire, laughed and sipped champagne, their voices blending into a melody of wealth and celebration. A massive banner stretched across the stage, its message bold and inspiring. At the heart of it all stood Adanna, a vision of elegance in a gold-trimmed Ankara gown. Her smile was warm, her eyes radiant with practiced sincerity. Tonight, she was more than a businesswoman. She was a savior in the eyes of many. Men and women surrounded her, eager for a moment of her time. They shook her hand, spoke her praises, admired her generosity. Madam Adanna, your kindness knows no bounds, an older man said, bowing slightly in respect. The young girls of this nation are blessed to have you. Adanna tilted her head slightly, her smile unwavering. It is not just my kindness, sir. It is our collective duty to ensure no girl is left behind. Polite applause rippled through the gathering. The gala host, an impeccably dressed man, stepped onto the stage with a microphone in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, a woman whose heart beats for the young girls of our nation. Entrepreneur, philanthropist, trailblazer, please welcome Adanna. A standing ovation followed as Adanna gracefully ascended the stage. She paused, surveying the audience with well-rehearsed poise before speaking. When I was a child, I saw young girls forced to abandon their dreams because of poverty. That reality shaped me. It gave me a mission, a purpose. And today, I stand before you to say that no girl should ever have to surrender her future. The crowd responded with enthusiastic applause. She placed a hand on her chest, feigning emotion, before continuing. And that is why I dedicate my life to giving back, to returning to the communities that raised us, to ensuring that no girl is left behind. A voice suddenly called out from the audience, "You return to your village often, Madam Adanna. Is that where you find your inspiration?" For the briefest moment, something flickered across Adanna's eyes, something unplaceable, something cold. It vanished just as quickly. She composed herself swiftly, nodding with grace. Yes, inspiration and duty. We must never forget where we came from. From the corner of the room, a journalist named Tony watched her closely. His notepad filled with notes, his instincts sharp. Something about her words didn't sit right. As Adanna descended from the stage, applause followed her like an echo. She shook hands, posed for photographs, and exchanged pleasantries. But something in the air had changed. The weight of something unseen settled on her shoulders. A cold, creeping sensation crawled down her spine. Her clutch vibrated against her palm. She retrieved her phone, glancing at the illuminated screen. A single message from an unknown number. Delivery confirmed. Payment received. She exhaled slowly, pressing the phone to her chest, and as the cameras flashed around her, her smile never wavered. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the village. The air was rich with the scent of sun-warmed earth and distant cooking fires. Adanna's convoy moved slowly through the narrow village roads, the polished black SUVs, reflecting the afternoon light as they passed small huts and dusty paths. As the vehicles came to a stop, villagers rushed forward, their faces a mix of admiration and gratitude. Children ran barefoot, women clutched their wrappers, and elders nodded in respect. A young girl, no older than 10, tugged at her mother's hand. "Mama, is she a queen?" The mother smiled. "No, child, she is better. She is the savior of our village." Adanna stepped out, dressed in a regal fitted Ankara gown in deep blue and gold, her golden bangles clinking softly as she raised a hand in greeting. "My people, it is good to be home." The crowd cheered, voices rising in gratitude. One of the village men, Elder Obinna, stepped forward, his weathered face carrying years of wisdom. "Daughter of the soil, your kindness has no end. Because of you, our children go to school, our women have businesses, the land sings your name." Adanna smiled, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It is my duty. We rise together." But as she spoke, her sharp gaze scanned the crowd, landing on a group of silent men standing further back, her informants, waiting for her signal. Her phone vibrated inside her clutch, a single message. 3 girls identified, confirmation needed. Adanna's expression never changed. She turned back to Elder Obinna. "Come, let us speak." She allowed the villagers to follow her into the open courtyard, where a feast had been arranged in her honor. Laughter and music filled the air, but beneath it all, a darker conversation was about to begin. The feast had long ended. The village slept under the watchful eye of the moon, but in the shadows, something sinister stirred. A black SUV idled on a narrow dirt road, its engine humming softly. Inside, 3 men sat in silence, their faces barely visible under the dim glow of the dashboard lights. From the distance, footsteps approached. The tall figure of Adanna emerged from the darkness, her white lace gown now covered by a dark shawl. She opened the door and slid into the back seat. "Where are they?" she asked, her voice even, controlled. One of the men, Ikenna, turned around in his seat and passed her a small notebook. Inside, 3 names were written in careful strokes. Chisholm, age 12, Amarachi, age 9, Onome, age 10. Adanna studied the names, her fingers tapping rhythmically against the leather seat. "Are they pure?" she finally asked. The man in the passenger seat, Uzo, nodded. "All 3, no blemishes, no sickness, no deformities." Adanna's lips curved into a satisfied smile. "Then proceed. You know the rules." Ikenna nodded once. No faces, no scars, no screams. Adanna opened her clutch and pulled out a stack of crisp bills, handing them over without a word. The 3 men moved with precision, their steps silent as they approached the targeted homes. The village was eerily quiet, the only sound the occasional bark of a stray dog. One by one, the girls were lifted from their mats, their tiny bodies wrapped in thick cloth, muffling any potential cries. Their feet never touched the ground. Within minutes, they were loaded into the SUV, blindfolded, and whisked away into the night. Adanna sat in silence as the car sped down the highway, the 3 blindfolded girls huddled in the back. She did not look at them. Instead, she took out her phone and typed a single message. "The package is secured." Seconds later, her phone vibrated with a response. "Good. Deliver before dawn." Adanna leaned back against the leather seat, staring out at the endless stretch of darkness ahead. A large iron gate creaked open, revealing a vast, secluded estate shrouded in darkness. The black SUV rolled in silently, its headlights cutting through the thick fog that lingered in the air. Towering trees surrounded the compound like silent sentinels, as if they knew what was about to take place within. 2 figures in black robes waited by the entrance. Their faces were hidden beneath deep hoods, their hands folded in quiet reverence. As the SUV came to a stop, Adanna stepped out, adjusting her shawl. Her heels clicked softly against the cold stone pathway as she approached the waiting men. "They are here?" one of the hooded figures asked in a voice as sharp as a blade. Adanna nodded once. The chamber was dimly lit, candles flickering along the walls, casting long, twisted shadows. The air smelled of burning herbs and aged incense. The walls were lined with symbols, ancient markings of a forbidden order. In the center of the room stood a long wooden table draped in black silk. On it lay 3 golden bowls, each filled with a thick, dark liquid. The 3 girls were brought in, still blindfolded, their small frames trembling with fear. Their feet barely touched the floor as they were led to the center of the room. A third figure emerged from the darkness, the High One, the unseen leader of this dark society. Unlike the others, he wore no hood, his face half hidden behind an ivory mask. He approached Adanna, studying her silently before speaking. "You have done well." Adanna bowed her head slightly, but there was no humility in her stance. "Payment?" she asked, her voice steady. The High One motioned toward an ancient wooden chest on the far side of the room. One of the hooded figures lifted the lid, revealing stacks of crisp $100 bills wrapped tightly in gold-trimmed bands. "Your reward." Adanna walked toward the chest, running her fingers over the cool, hard cash before nodding in satisfaction. "And the offering?" one of the hooded men asked, his voice laced with reverence. The High One turned his attention back to the girls. "Prepare them." The ritual began. Soft chanting filled the air, growing louder, more feverish. The golden bowls were lifted, the thick liquid within glistening under the candlelight. Adanna turned away, uninterested. Her part was done. She reached for her phone, typing a single message. "Transaction complete." A response came almost instantly. "Proceed with the next phase." She smiled, picking up a single gold coin from the chest, her personal mark of success. As she stepped toward the exit, the girls' muffled whimpers followed her, but she never looked back. She never did. Adanna's phone buzzed on her desk. She picked it up, scanning the message from Ikenna. "Another successful delivery. Payment received." She smiled. Her operations had never been smoother. The supply of girls was steady, the wealthy men of the secret society satisfied. Every transaction strengthened her position, her influence, her legacy. She had long stopped being directly involved in the village operations. She no longer needed to be. Her network of enforcers handled everything. The girls were taken, transported, delivered, and returned without a trace. No one ever spoke. No one ever suspected. The world still saw her as a goddess. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the city lights below. At this rate, she would never have to work another day in her life. Her empire was untouchable, or so she thought. The store gleamed under the bright Nigerian sun, glass doors, gold-plated signage, and mannequins draped in the latest luxury designs. A private shopping experience for the elite of Abuja, one of Adanna's most lucrative locations. Inside, Adanna walked through the boutique, her presence commanding. Staff members straightened immediately, adjusting displays as she passed. She wasn't just a businesswoman, she was the business. 2 women whispered near a dressing room, glancing at Adanna. "She's stunning, isn't she?" one said, admiring her from afar. "And powerful," the other added. "I heard she has no husband, no kids, yet she owns half of Lagos." Adanna overheard, but her lips curled into an amused smile. Power didn't need a husband. Adanna sat in the private VIP lounge of her luxurious penthouse in Abuja, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city skyline. The soft hum of classical music played in the background, blending with the faint sounds of Abuja's traffic below. She lifted a delicate porcelain cup, sipping imported Japanese matcha tea, her posture effortless, graceful, untouchable. Then her phone buzzed. Without hesitation, she answered. "Report." Ikenna's voice came through, smooth, calculated precision. "Another 3 girls secured. The buyers are satisfied." Adanna smirked, placing her teacup down with precision, the clink of porcelain against glass barely audible. "Good. Maintain the rhythm." For years, her operations had grown effortlessly. No mistakes, no noise, no suspicion. Her reputation expanded beyond Nigeria, reaching the underground networks of West Africa. There were bigger buyers, more dangerous connections, greater rewards. She had become untouchable, or so she believed. As she ended the call, she glanced at her watch. A Cartier masterpiece encrusted with diamonds. There was another exclusive event tonight, another public appearance to preserve her flawless image. As long as the world believed in her, no one would ever question her true source of wealth. She stood, adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist, her face the perfect mask of power and grace. The air was thick with incense, the room dimly lit by flickering lanterns. The most powerful men in the dark society sat in their usual places, their faces partially obscured by shadow. Tonight should have been like any other transaction, but something was wrong. Ikenna stood near the entrance, his fingers twitching slightly, betraying an unease he dared not voice. He stole a glance at Adanna, whose face remained unreadable, her diamond bracelet glinting under the golden light. The High One, the leader of the society, leaned forward. His voice was low, deliberate, dangerously calm. "There is a problem." A sharp silence fell over the room. Adanna's gaze remained steady, though a flicker of irritation passed through her mind. "What problem?" she asked, her voice controlled. The High One gestured toward the far end of the chamber. A child knelt there, alone, trembling, wide-eyed. It was Chiamaka. She was supposed to be like all the others, blindfolded, silent, forgetful. But this one was different. She was awake, and worse, she recognized someone. One of the wealthiest men in the society, a powerful politician, sat frozen in his chair. Their eyes had locked the moment she was brought in. The air in the chamber thickened as all eyes turned toward the girl. Chiamaka knelt on the floor, trembling. At the far end of the room, the politician, the man she recognized, sat frozen, his hands gripping the arms of his chair. His body was rigid, his face a mask of disbelief. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Chiamaka spoke. "I know you." The words sent a shockwave through the chamber. The politician's breath hitched. A single bead of sweat trickled down his temple. He sat paralyzed, unable to speak, his mind racing for a way out. A heavy silence fell over the room. From the opposite end of the hall, standing near the High One, Adanna observed the unfolding chaos. She was draped in the shadows, watching with careful detachment. The High One turned slowly, his gaze settling on Adanna like a weight. His voice, calm but ice-cold, sliced through the tension. "This is unacceptable. You were entrusted with discretion." Adanna's grip on her gold bracelet tightened, but her expression remained composed. "She's a child. She will forget. Give her time." The High One exhaled sharply, his voice darkening. "What if she doesn't?" A stillness settled over the room. Across the chamber, the politician remained frozen in his chair, unable to look away from the girl who had recognized him. A slow, deep breath filled the chamber. The High One's gaze never wavered as he addressed Adanna again. "Do you know what you have done?" Adanna's lips parted slightly, but for the first time she had no answer. The warning signs had been there, the cracked mirror, the gold coin in her drawer, the whispers in the dark. She had taken the wrong one, and now they all knew it.